Okay, so if we look at the data we had IE equals 5.3, IN equals 1.3, and RR equals 4.2. You can learn something very quickly about looking at our data. When IE is bigger than INE, IE is greater than INE, when the incidence in the exposed is bigger than the incidence in the not exposed, your relative risk is going to be greater than 1. That's because the being exposed increases your likelihood of the health outcome. When IE is less than INE, that means your relative risk is going to be less than 1. And when IE equals INE, that means your relative risk equals 1, which means no association. If you remember back to odds ratios, we interpret these very similarly. So if the incidence in the exposed is greater than the incidence in the not exposed, and your relative risk is greater than 1, it is a risk factor. If your incidence in the exposed is less than your incidence in the non-exposed, aka RR is less than 1, it is a protective factor. Once again, RR as a base of 1 means that there's no association. So you can figure out whether or not your exposure is a risk factor or a protective factor without ever calculating your relative risk. What the relative risk tells you is how strong of an association, how strong is the relationship between the exposure and the outcome, the strength of the relationship, that effect size, how much does this exposure impact whether or not you get this outcome. And so just like odds ratios, we really look at a base of 2, so anything above 2 for a relative risk over the 1 is where we'll really start to see, okay, maybe this exposure causes more of this health outcome, and it has a truly substantial effect on it.